I guess I'll start over.
All over again.
Okay, so for the recording, we've got everything, all technical glitches figured out. Grant Allen, I'm the senior planner with the planning department here at Orem City. I am staff assigned to this commission to help everything you'll need to make sure we're following guidelines and ordinances for the commission, as well as help you all with anything you need. I think we'll just kind of go around the room. We're waiting on a couple of commission members, so hopefully they'll join soon. But we'll go around the table here and let's do some introductions. So, Devin, want to go first?
My name is Devin Pierce. What information you want to know?
Tell us a little bit why you're interested in serving the commission, and maybe a little bit about yourself as far as you're interested in historic preservation.
Like I said, my name is Devin Pierce. I've lived here in Orem all my life. I really just want an opportunity to serve in my community, and I've always been, I guess, a history nerd. And so when I saw that this position, I hopped on it and glad I was. It would be a selected as to be on the question.
Great, very good. Glad to have you.
My name is Alena Franco, and I am the CLD coordinator for the State Historic Preservation Office for SHIP.
I'm Corey Jensen. I'm the National Register Coordinator for the SHPO. And used to be on this commission years ago, prior to starting with the SHPO. So,
Great, glad to have you.
Yeah, and I'm Vaughn, and I was on the original commission. So that's this here thing right here. And we're seeing some of the buildings and stuff tore down, and they said we can't have that, see all of this stuff being done. And that was back in, I don't remember what it was. But I just got down here and got all excited and invited SHPO to come out. And they made a presentation, and the city council accepted it. That's how the first one got started. And I'm a transplant from Spanish Fort. And you're saying, why am I interested? It's because my wife's family are original settlers here. And she has a lot of people here that live here and bond here. And it's an interest that I have. So I started collecting pictures. This is what it company started. I've made a whole set of pictures, and I just wanted to show them to you. That I was interested in and finding, and I found all these pictures. And my wife wrote for the Orange Geneva Times for about 15 years, and attended every city council meeting and wrote about all these things. We've just been embedded in the Orem, and we love it here. We love the city, and it's a good place to live.
Glad to have you on the commission.
Can I just interrupt really fast? The microphone is up here. So the further away you get, like down there, you can speak up.
I
Otherwise,
can do that, and it would help too if others did, because I'm hard of hearing.
okay, I just want to be able to record everything you say, so, thank you.
It's kind of going around and telling
Okay.
you're interested in the serving on commission and maybe a couple things about yourself.
I'm Amber Larson. Oh, gee, my interest on the commission. I am probably one of the original history nerds. I've got a bachelor's and master's in history. I've just always loved anything that deals with it. My grandparents are from Orem, and me and my husband recently purchased one of my grandparents' homes and moved here. And so I've got a little bit of background. I love anything to do with civic duties and responsibilities, and I guess that would be my other pet project, dealing with history is political science. But I don't know. What else?
That's it for now. It's a quick introductions. So
I'm Olivia Johnson. I have been living in Orem for about 7 years now, so I am a transplant to the area. I do have a passion for history. I am one semester away from my bachelor's in history. I've already completed all the capstone and thesis and everything. It's just one semester class that's holding me back from graduating. I love history, so I really want to see the history of the area preserved for not just my children, but those who come after my children, to know where they grew up and where they're born and kind of their history as well.
So I'm Cheryl Vargas, I'm a planner, and I'm just here in this meeting to take minutes and make sure it records, helping Grant out. I think there'll be another person who'll be here permanent.
So I'm trying to figure out who's going to join.
It might be me. Who knows?
I think it might be one of our other planners. And the back row, let's go quickly do some.
Yeah, I'm Trent Vaughn. Vaughn's my dad. I will one day be interested in the commission, but I've got 7 kids at home. So yeah, one day I'll probably be here officially on the commission, but yeah, this is my son Bridger. He's my oldest. He's 15 with the Mountain View. No, so I went to Orem High, so he's going to our rival school. But,
Right. And Amber, I'm Grant. So, and so, thank you, everybody. This great to meet everyone. I know I've communicated with most of you virtually, so it's good to meet everybody in person. Tonight, we've got some really important things up front to start with, and then so coming up, the first 2 items were to assign commission chair and any other assignments. Try to kind of decide on a meeting schedule and the rest of the calendar. And then I've invited Alena here to kind of do a brief synopsis of our responsibilities at CLG, and also then our annual opportunity to apply for a historic grant. And then finally, Alon has put together some photographs from all of his rich time from serving on the commission, and this, like he was sharing his wife's work as well. So he's going to take some time at the end to show us some really neat photographs and other slideshow. So let's go and move on to item number 1. We've got 4 of the members here of the commission. And we could also push this off to the second meeting until we have the other member here, Brittany. If you wanted to do that, I'm sure that's fine at this point. But I think I was thinking we'll do that. We'll give her a chance to come and we can all meet each other. And then maybe at the second meeting, we'll formally vote for a chair over the vice chair. We'll kind of take charge and help me finalize agendas and so does that sound all good to you?
Yeah.
So I think I don't know if we need a formal vote for that, but I'll push that out to the next meeting. So do I need a motion for that? So okay. Maybe Brittany's here. Are you Brittany?
Yeah, sorry.
Great.
Kind of works.
No worries, no worries. You are at the table if you want for now.
I brought the screen.
We're not doing that right away, so you can shift maybe the sides to that both the screens and blaring it on this. You can all check that out. Brittany, I'm Grant. I've been the one emailing you,
Okay.
and we did some quick introductions here, but we were just talking about kind of the first item on the agenda, which is to assign a commission chair and then any other assignments at this time. I was submitting that if you were not able to join us tonight, that we would kind of put that off to the next meeting. I think that's still maybe appropriate. We can all be thinking of who maybe amongst yourselves to nominate for the chair, and we'll do that one next time. So I'll send you this today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you already go over the assignments and everything too?
Not yet. We're kind of just Literally, right when you were saying, I was saying, let's move on to the next item. But, yeah, the other assignments, I think, as Juan had some ideas, or as we have a grant process, or other projects that the commission wants to pursue, maybe at that point we'd have formal subcommittee assignments or something like that. That's the other kind of just major.
Can I throw them some of the things you get before?
Um,
You got some there, but
yeah, I think you could show a couple of those items, yeah.
this is the calendar we did in 1996.
96, yeah.
That was the social centennial of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. We put that together, and a lot of those pictures are pictures that I am going to show you in a minute. But that's what we did, and we also did this book here. And this is the historic homes, and we've got some in
So we found a box. So we've actually got a copy of them.
And the interesting thing is, I take some of these down, I steal out of the box,
I have a digital file of this.
and they need to.
Yeah, there is a digital file as well.
But these were set up so that the people could know what homes were stored. And in the center, you've got these things here, which homes are on the historic preservation, or, you know.
Yeah.
What do they call it?
The National Register
Yeah,
of
national.
Historic Places.
And if you're on the National Register, we have it here. And the other one is, we put some, if you've been around the city, you've seen these little markers. And those markers were done by the commission. So we set them up so that people could then do a book like this, and they could go and find what they wanted to. And give a description in here of the different things. So that's what we did. We did other things too. Partly that, you know, the park, in Nelson's Grove. Nelson's Grove came about because of the commission. And partly what happened was that, Brad Westwood
Westwood.
was sitting up, he did our very first,
Reconnaissance level survey.
So we did our very first survey, and he was up on his home, which is above the, I don't know if that's there now, but it was right above the park. And he had seen a slide, and I'll show you a picture of what the original park looked like that was in the Daughters of the Utah Pioneers. I had that, and he looked down and he said, I think that looks familiar, and he says, yeah, that is where it is, and it was just a big puddle of water here. A lot of water, trees, and all it was. And so we as a commission found that there was property that was for sale, and they couldn't use it. They couldn't use this property because of the high water levels. And there was other properties that people wanted to use, so they traded for that property. If that makes sense, they traded for other property that they had along the freeway and so forth, and people wanted that. They traded for the property, and then when they got a special grant, they set up the park. But if it hadn't been for the Historic Preservation Commission, there wouldn't have been even knowledge of the park. So we do lots of good things as we do these surveys and other things, and I'm sure you'll tell us what's available.
That's a great segue. I think we're almost there. I think we'll go ahead and go on to this formal second item, which is meetings and the rest of the calendar year. I know a few of you had identified that this time was a little challenging maybe to make with other commitments, getting off the work, et cetera, meeting here, getting there. So I think, is there a different time that you all would feel would be, is it pushing it back like half an hour on this, on a Thursday evening?
I know for me, 5:30 or 6 would be better. I get off work right at 5. So.
Okay,
Work until 6.
okay,
Typically, I can get off a little bit early if needed, so 6 o'clock would probably.
okay.
I came right from work, I am so. Hearing about.
You were, I would say, several of you, most of you, identified that, so.
Yeah.
we,
5 o'clock is okay for me, but if we push it back to 6 or so.
So,
Yeah.
what about you, Lon?
It doesn't matter to me.
Okay. So 6 to 7 maybe is a good timing, and I kind of picked a Thursday because it's Tuesday nights are tricky with city council every other week. And then for, if Cheryl is going to continue to help us, she has another commission she actually helps with on a Tuesday evening. And so we kind of picked a Thursday because none of the other committees are meeting Thursdays. And it's offset, it's kind of conflict with any other meetings. So I think that's that case. We'll I need a motion for that too.
Is
Yeah,
it the third
that's-
Thursday?
Third Thursday, let's double check. Thursday.
Will it always be like on the third Thursday?
That would be, kind of the idea is that we hold it, and the other frequency, it doesn't really specify that we have to hold it monthly.
Sorry.
But some of the other commissions meet monthly. And so that would also be up to you all, if you want to meet every other month, or you want to meet once a quarter, want to meet once a month.
I think once a month until we can try and figure out what we're doing, so that we can become more. With
Yeah,
that.
I think it's going to be on our agenda.
How many gonna meet once a month?
Yeah, we're kind of just spitballing that right now. I think my recommendation was at least we would for sure meet today, and if you apply for a grant, we would for sure want to meet again next month. With all those details. We'll hear from Alena here in a minute on that process. So if you all feel once a month, third Thursday. It is. So third Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m.
Okay, so next month, I'm leaving on a trip that morning. So I
Okay.
want-
So as long as, I mean, if you're able to make kind of one meeting, that's okay. Just let us know ahead of time, and then as long as we have 3 to 5, we would have a quorum to make any official business decisions, motions, etc. So, so we would like to make a motion. Is that setting that schedule for the rest of the year?
I make a motion
So
to, I make a motion to have the meetings on the third Thursday of every month at 6 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Oh, so I think that.
okay, all in favor? It's gonna go around.
Yes.
Aye.
I think everybody's.
Okay,
So the next meeting will be February 16th.
great. Well, that's easy. We knocked out those 2 first things. So, as I mentioned, I've invited Alena here. That's the third item on the agenda. Alena is from this State Historic Preservation Office, SHPO for short. I don't know, just a quick overview, and then kind of tailing off of that, the fourth item is every January, SHPO opens up grant application for historic grants. So, and Corey, I think you can also speak to some of this as well. So, no, kind of. Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna come on because.
And you're both live in Orem, correct?
Yes.
So I think we're also benefit from some state expertise living in our community.
If we, again, if we didn't work for the state, we'd be on this commission.
Yeah.
You know, confident. Anyway, well, thank you all for reactivating this commission. We're excited to have you guys back at the CLG. I know I emailed each of you with like a welcome email, like with a bunch of links and everything. So feel free to check those out whenever you want. And I think you guys, I've added you to the list, so you're gonna get periodic emails from me with grant opportunities. Maybe even job opportunities. That's also an option. Yeah, so Utah has 100 CLGs, so you were just one of, again, 100. And they do a bunch of projects throughout the state, and there's a lot of potential for this commission. Because you act as an advisory board for the city, you're also the point of contact for property owners who have, let's say, like a 1960 house, and they're like, I want to fix this house, is there anything available? You know, you could be a point of contact for that. And then there's some CLGs who do like in the summer, you know, like for strawberries or Pleasant Grove, they had like a walking tour of their cool, you know, historic sites throughout town. So there's a lot of things you can do, again, depending on your bandwidth, depending on what your community wants, you know, it's up to you. So one of the big incentives we say for the CLG program is money, you know, money for the city and also for individual property owners.
I'm really new to this. What does CLG stand for?
It's an acronym because all of our titles are so long. So it stands for Certified Local Government, and it just means your local government, Orem City, has been certified so you can get grants. So I'll say CLG for short, but it's Certified Local Government. And so then feel free to pause me, whatever, because I'm used to talking about these things all the time, but not everybody gets to that.
And it's also combined with Historic Preservation Commission, so.
Yeah.
You kind of interchanges to.
Yeah, so just like Grant said, we do have grants available every January. So if you guys feel like you don't want to apply this year, you don't have to. We can always prepare for next January, you know, if you want. So one of the arching things we try to encourage CLGs to aim for is we want you to survey your cities because you don't know what you have if you don't even know. You know, so I know a survey was done in 2014.
Yes,
Right.
so I think that was the last one.
Yeah.
2014, 2012, sometime.
So we do have survey data, but it's probably old and outdated. There's some areas in the city that we haven't covered yet. Because the Park Service considers anything 50 years old, it's an older, is historic, so that's 1973. So anything older than that is considered historic. It could be, again, it could be listed, there's opportunities for financial incentives for those kind of properties. So we encourage cities to survey your areas, figure out what you have, figure out what you want to prioritize, because you can't save everything. We know this. You don't have to save everything. Okay. So just again, it's about prioritizing what you want. So we encourage surveying. And then after that, we do encourage being listed on the National Register if there is community support for that, either individually or as a group. A lot of people have misconceptions with the National Register, thinking that the government is going to come take your property, or either the federal government or the state, and that's not the case. The only time there's any kind of restrictions with the property is if you're asking for money, because strings attached with money, or if the city had local legislation saying you can't do X, Y, and Z. Okay, so the state will not get involved, and the feds won't get involved unless there's money. Anyway. So we have Tremont, Cedar City, Morgan, Park City, all these other neighboring cities they've done this, they've done surveys, they've listed historic districts, like Springville's historic district. And that has opened up the door for property owners within those areas to access historic tax credits and also CLG funds for rehab. So for example, Tremont, they did a survey back in 2019. They got a district. A district is just like a big square geographic area, and all the properties inside are either historic or not. That's essentially. So Tremont, again, they surveyed, they got a district, and then 2 years ago, in 21, they announced it to everybody. They said, hey, do you have a historic building? Are you fixing it up? We can get grant money for you. So they had a gas station, and then they had a barn that's like an event space, for summer weddings. They said, hey, yeah, we want to re-roof our building, or we need to fix up the neon signage. So, they applied to us for a grant, we got them a grant, and they finished their projects, and it was just individual property owners getting access to grant funds just to take care of their buildings to make them livable.
Also tax credits.
Yeah, and tax credits as well.
Yeah. So, that's, Orem City actually has one historic district, you're probably aware of, the Castile Acres, which was done way back when I first started working at the SHPO, about the time I was on the commission here. And that all came about because of the survey that was done, the reconstitutional survey that was done prior to that. That's why we like the surveys, because it identifies what properties, where there are concentrations of historic properties, which ones still retain what's called historical integrity. You can have alterations, but they can't be major alterations, or the property be noted as non-contributing as opposed to a contributing building. Or if it's too new, 50 years or newer. In most cases, they would need to this time period. So, so we're talking about the last survey done. I think they hit most of the city boundary. It was Jeff Harris that was working with Office of Public Archaeology, which used to be lovely. But yeah, we'd like to see those surveys updated about every 10 years if possible. It is a lot of money, so we understand that that's not always the case, or you can focus on doing one survey with one grant. That's what happened when Brad Westwood did the initial survey, I think starting in 1993. We did one section of the city and then finished the rest of it with the next survey. So one point I wanted to make as she's talking about all this, and what I noticed when I served on this commission before. So it's primarily focused on historic preservation refers to preservation of buildings. In the past, the commission would sometimes get off track. It would deal with local histories like people like genealogy or parks or what else? Yeah, cemeteries, anything like that. But the focus of this group should be on the historic built environment of the Water City. And so
Well, you can do more, but for
there's,
but for the CLG grant, it will only, the feds only say it can only apply to archaeology or historic buildings.
right.
So again, you can do museum stuff, you can do cemetery stuff, and we do have a contact for cemeteries in our office. But for the grant, it won't cover that. Yeah, we're happy to offer technical assistance.
I have a question.
Yeah.
They had a project there where they found an old building.
Yeah, the
Oh,
cabin.
the cabin by the
belonged
enterprise.
to the
city.
city, and they moved it, or they're moving it. Can that be part of the grant to fix that up?
Sadly, no, because the grant money can only be used on buildings that are listed on the National Register. That cabin is not listed and it's not eligible, probably because the city is not deconstructed, but it's just moved.
No, I think. No, they didn't move the whole thing.
Yeah, they moved it as a block.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, so the feds are limited in what you can use the grant funds for. So that unfortunately it's not eligible.
For the CLG.
Yeah, for the
For the
grant
CLG.
funds, but you can do that.
You can focus on it.
Yeah,
As a project.
yeah, we just can't.
That's still something the commission, kind of to their point, is still something the commission, I think could focus on, and is interested in focusing on. Because we wouldn't have the ability to apply for state or federal money. There might be another grant that we find out about.
Yeah.
Private grants, sometimes those strings are not as tightly wound around federal or state regulations. As I've become familiar with a few of those.
And we have an architect on staff who deals with the historic buildings, so when you're moving that building, if you have questions about, we're happy to help. So free of charge, obviously. What else? Yeah, but
Buildings.
Hey, another question I had, we were talking about. He has a lot of photos and stuff for him. Can they do it then and now kind of thing?
you could do a public education activity. That's one of the CLG projects. You could reprint these
Yeah.
historic tours, make them
Yeah, that came down.
color, you can even do mobile apps. You could do lectures, workshops, you could invite lecturers in, for city staff or the public, anything. So there's options.
They do have a pretty good museum. And all of you have been there. Been to the museum there.
That is,
If you haven't been there, you need to go and see. They have a lot of stuff. It's down at the old. What's that?
Senate.
Yes, the old seminary.
Theater.
Sierra. And it's in there, they have that really good museum. And they got a lot of stuff in there, there's just lots and lots of things. And I try to keep that book down there with them, because people go and they really love the book because they can get, if we can do some more of those or whatever, because they put them down there and people take them and it gives a good feel for what Orem is, and they can take the tour and have that kind of a thing. It's really good. But if you haven't been to the museum, then they open from about 3 to 7 almost every day, except Saturdays. You think they open on Saturdays, but they don't. 3 to 7. I've been a dozen there before, so I off and on my time. And it's so, or if you want a tour, I can get this a tour.
That might be something that
We can all go down on it and meet. I can show you around the museum.
that'd be really cool.
If you'd like to do that, but I can do that. I got permission to do that.
Another place you might want to look at, when we did this early on, would be, the Olmsted power plant site.
What did you say?
The old Olmsted power plant.
Yeah,
in Provo County. Which we have been trying to work with them to get it listed as a historic district. The power plant building itself is listed on the National Register. When Central Utah Water Conservancy took it over, they are considering, they did a big project in that building, made a little museum in there, so in the power plant. So you can set up tours. If that's something you want to do, I can. I remember. Maybe I say it.
It's really nice to do that.
Yeah.
I was doing it.
Yeah.
I have some pictures of that originally. I think
Yeah,
that really would make a good historic.
it would. And I think one of the important is that the commission met with them on the site. Just to kind of reinforce the fact, it would be really cool to have this historic district. They know that, but they're just afraid of federal government oversight. When we tried to talk, and a lot of them know that, but they're still, a little wary of it. Anyway, it's a really great place, and it should be preserved as a historic district. So.
Yeah, so we've talked a lot, or at least I've talked about a lot about what you can't do. So let's talk about what you can do with the grant. So I think there's 6 different projects you can do. One of which is survey, which we've already mentioned. You can also list properties to the National Register. So again, getting them on that list so they can take advantage of historic tax credits or this grant. You can also do pre-development. That could be feasibility studies, working drawings. That could be structural reports for a building for its future rehab. So I've had some, property owners who are just like, we're redoing this whole roof and I need a structural engineer to look at it, to tie it into the building. It's not seismically. Well, obviously, it's like a house built in the 1800s. And so they're like things like that. I've had like old churches that aren't churches anymore, but people are buying them for community centers to say we need a feasibility study on this building to see what we need to do. So there's things like that. For pre-development.
They have to be listed on the pre-development too.
Nope, it just
They
has
don't.
to be historic, so it just has to be older than 10 years. And then there's also development, and those are the brick and mortar grants or just rehab on a house. So, I mean, people have been using them on, personal private properties, on city-owned buildings, because sometimes the city library or Old City Hall is listed, so they've been using them on that. For the county courthouse or anything. So there's that. And that's the most popular project is people doing rehab on their properties. Again, the property has to be on the National Register. That's the thing, because this is federal funds. So it has to be on that federal list, National Register, before you apply for funds. And that's why you push for surveys and nominations. Okay. What number am I on? Then I'm sorry, did you have any questions before I move? Okay, then the next project is preservation planning, and it's more on the city level. So if you wanted to do design guidelines, for a historic neighborhood for infill or future, development, you can do that. Even these meetings you can count as preservation planning, or if you wanted to go to a conference, let's say the commission wanted to go to either a state preservation conference or a national one, that could also count as part of your grant. We do have a preservation conference coming up in June. No,
It's,
Summer,
I think
summer.
it's June.
yeah.
Preservation Month is actually May,
we're doing it new.
but we're doing the conference for
So,
June.
And that will be up in Salt Lake at the Columbus School, and I'll send you more information once it's on our website. And you're more than welcome to attend that. And then again, any national conferences, there's the National Trust, NAPC, there are the National Alliance Preservation Commissions.
Those are really good because they do a lot of training of the NAPC.
Yeah, they focus
more
on
focused.
commissions.
National Trust is really big. There's a lot there. It's not as personal training.
And Fast Forward, is that the same thing?
Fast forward is.
Was in my mind. Anyway, there's a lot of different things you could do with grant funds if you wanted.
One of the things, real quick, when going back to survey, there's two kinds of surveys. So we talk about reconnaissance level survey, RLS, and that's when you do a broad kind of inventory of historic buildings, whether it's for a larger neighborhood or for the whole city or whatever. That gathers basic data, not really individual research. Intensive level surveys or ILS is more at the more focused level. So you're doing research on a specific property. And it's basically the same research that would go into a national register nomination. So that's another thing you can look at. Orem City has done several intensive level surveys over the years. So and several nominations too, which is surprising. That's what would be curious for me to see is if you do a reconnaissance level survey, is how many of the National Register properties are still standing? I know there are a number that have been demolished, so anyway, some ideas.
And with a gap of more than 10 years, or almost 10 years exactly, our last survey,
Right,
there's been more properties are eligible again.
So then
right.
you still give a certain amount of money and then you have to take.
Yeah,
Say you have to.
Yeah.
it's probably about $25 to $30 per building for reconnaissance. So it feels like,
So if they do a survey, they hire somebody to do it.
Yeah.
And then if we add anything or go out and do any. Whatever we do. To help, then it counts towards the hours, right?
yeah,
I mean-
typically a consultant will want to do most of that on their own, but the CLG can be involved. And of course, you'd be involved in hiring the consultants, putting out an RFP. And we have a huge list now. We just added double the list. I think several people from out of state too, but they typically would want to do all the survey work themselves. We have a lot of CLGs saying, hey, maybe we can have some people help you photographs or do some research on the buildings. What I found over the years is the consultants like to do it all themselves. They're getting paid to do it to begin with, and they have a system down. But there's other ways they may consult with you guys to help with that. So
We could iron that out through the RFP process.
Yeah.
And say, hey, the city, the CLG is interested in doing these portions. That's something that we're gonna through the RFP process, the consultant isn't very comfortable with and wants to work with us or not. So,
Yeah, and as part of that survey, the consultant, they would, prepare a huge report with future recommendations about either, other areas to look at or next steps, after the survey. And then it's usually normal for consultants to do public meetings. So, you hold public meetings saying, this is what we've discovered, this is what we want to do. So that's pretty much the package. That if you wanted to do the survey. Okay, and then the last, like all over the place, the last CLG project that you could do, I think I mentioned this before, is the public education activities. So again, historic walking tours is pretty popular. Any kind of lectures that engage the public, learning about the historic sites that, and we're pretty flexible. I mean, I had Hurricane City, they did a bunch of mini videos, like 1 minute long videos about historic buildings, and they just put them on their YouTube channel and stuff. So there's, we're pretty flexible. Like if you come up with a good idea, like we'll make it there.
yeah, and with the Orem Summerfest, excuse me, they used to set up a booth where they have the public service weeks, public history week, whatever. And they've done that in the past, so. Something to consider, just the educational resources.
They just announced, I think, the theme for this year, yesterday. Get some on Facebook, or on Facebook page, or something else. So,
Yeah, so I realize this is a lot of information, so they're like, you guys, um. Yeah, so do you have any questions about anything or like, what should we do?
I guess really quick
Yeah.
overview for the grant process.
Oh, yeah, the grant,
It opened up already,
yes, so it
and it
opened up,
is competitive,
yes.
so you can explain some of those
Yeah.
details.
Yeah. Good. So in the past, this used to be a non-competitive grant. And now things have changed. So now it's competitive to make it more fair because it used to be first come, first serve, and then we noticed the same people were getting the grants. It's like, well, what about everybody else? So again, we're trying to make it as fair as possible. So this year it is competitive. There is a grant panel who will be reviewing all applications and they will allocate funding. So, yeah, so the grant applications, I think all of you sent them. I sent them to all of you because they send them by email. If you didn't get them, let me know. I'll send out another reminder in the next week. Yeah, it opened in the beginning of January. It closes on February 17th, which is a Friday, and I think it's the day after this next week.
It is, yes.
And stuff, so there's plenty of time. And then once the application closes on February 17th, we will announce grant awards mid-March, and then you can get started in April. And then you have 16 months. You have from April 1st of this year till August 31st, 24 to complete your project. So that spans 2 fiscal years, which is helpful for some CLGs to like move budgets around. And that should give you plenty of time.
A lot of CLGs will wait till,
They wait till
3
like a
months
week
before they-
to do
they
it.
look at it. It's like, you're not gonna be able to get a consultant to do a survey of your town, let alone do it in 3 months, because a big project like that would take them probably 2 or 3 months to do. Denominations maybe not quite so, the surveys do. It's a lot of groundwork you have to do, research and stuff. Yeah.
So it all just depends on what project you want to focus.
Okay, so I think that's something we can be thinking about, or if any of you want to have a suggestion today. To really dead set on, my recommendation to the commission was going to be, it's almost been that 10 years from the last survey. And so I think focusing on that grant application for common sense level survey, knowing that we probably wouldn't be able to cover the whole city all at once. I did want to add today, we'll be having her join us next month. Liz, blanking her last name right now. UDOT is widening 1600 north. Liz Robinson, yeah. So UDOT is going to be widening 1600 north, and with that widening, there's going to be some affected properties, and some of those properties are actually eligible historic homes. And so, due to that, UDOT is required by state law to propose a mitigation measure for those affected properties. And so we've actually over the last month, beginning of December, we met with her, and so I'll be having her come to next month to present kind of that proposal for mitigation. Essentially, it's a reconnaissance level survey of some additional homes for it. So I think that's great timing for us because we can kind of apply for this, maybe a reconnaissance level survey grants through SHPO and focusing on a portion of the city, and we'll have that down. Funding for that project will be coming later with UDOT, kind of depending on UDOT's funding timing, but
Push them for money, they've got money.
so
They threw away 13 million to, your.
I know, but we're in the process of having the city attorney's office reviewing that memorandum of agreement. So she'll be coming to you all to present that to us next month, kind of outline a little more than my terrible paraphrasing of the process. But I thought it was pretty exciting that was kind of aligning with this commission being reactivated. And so we've kind of negotiated, or she kind of suggested, hey, this is what we what you that would be willing to do, and so.
I think I'll be happy too that you're involved because in the past with some other projects, it was about the time when the commission was deactivated around the session time, and so there was no response to other projects that they're doing through the area. So they always appreciate working with local commission.
Well, and she actually sent me a letter in November, and I kind of said, oh, we're gonna maybe get our commission reactivated, and so I was trying to kind of slow the process down with her, and so we can have her come present it to you. So sort of excited for that.
So I know you sent the application to each of us in an email. Do we each need to submit the application or do we just elect one person?
Good question, yeah. So one person, we get one application per city. So it's usually the chair. So, and usually the chair will manage the project over the grant cycle, so they will handle, getting the grant contract signed by the city and then submitting the grant paperwork at the end. So whoever wants to take on that responsibility, it's not a lot, but since you're new to it, it will be an adjustment period. It's not onerous.
And I'm sure we'll have you to be.
Yeah, help. You can call me whenever. You're like, just put in X, Y, and Z, it's no big deal. And even the application, I consider it a grocery list, not really an application like a child. You could put, if you decide to do the survey, you don't have to do a huge, long description of what it is. You could just put in your boundary streets, 800 north, blah, blah. Just put in your boundary streets and that can be it for a project description.
One is kind of divided into quadrants, maybe we
Yeah,
could
that's
focus on one at a
Yeah.
time.
Do that, whatever.
There's a few different ways we could do, we could kind of parcel it up if you were, there's even now we've kind of split the city up into districts and neighborhoods, combined together.
That would be good.
So we could, kind of focus on some of those areas and.
Another way too is, we'd like to see, for the sake of cities where there are potential large historic districts to get everything, every building within a certain area, whether it's, built 2023 or, 1890 or whatever. I don't think there's a lot of potential for any historic districts left in Warren, just the way it's. I don't know, there's a lot of infill. But one way, I think the way they did this for the last survey was they just caught every building that was at least 50 years old.
But that's another way.
Yeah, that would probably, cut a lot of the space in there. That would be about only a third of the buildings. So
Yeah.
I mean, and if you can't do a district, that's totally fine, but at least you have basic information. So if
Right.
an individual
Yeah.
property owner says, hey, this survey says I'm eligible,
Mhm.
can I do this? And you're like, yes, because we already have this information.
And like she said, they can provide, some ideas for potential individual half registered properties, or just ones that you want to do intensive level survey on. So just find out more information, even if it's, the survey might show that it's a pretty old building, and even if it doesn't retain integrity, it could still be historically, kind of important to the community that you want to do some background research on this. And the recommendations in the survey report that the consultant provided would, provide
Okay, fine.
eventually a list of those.
Good questions. Any other questions about the grant?
I'm just concerned about our next meeting is the day before the turn-in date, that we need to get that grant in if we want to apply for it before we elect a chair, or because we're not electing a chair until next time. So somebody would have to take over those responsibilities of submitting the grant paperwork.
And again, grant paperwork, it's easy. It's pretty easy. I think the only section, even for the budget section, have any of you looked at it?
I browsed it, but couldn't have.
Okay, it's 3 pages long. The first one is just filling your grant request and putting your contact info. The next is what project are you doing? And then project description. So if you're doing a survey, again, it's just putting your boundary streets and just say we want a survey, and that's it. And then the last page is a budget request and public benefit justification. So again, 1 or 2 paragraph is fine, because I have to read all these and I'm tired.
And you also put the project amounts, suggested amounts, so you can just.
Keep it,
Yeah.
you could put a 1-line item and just say, we're doing a survey and we think it's gonna cost this much. it could, just keep it simple.
What is on that would be.
Okay, so for example, okay, so Cedar City, they surveyed about 600 properties 2 years ago. And that cost about. I think it was 18,000. So but that was like a couple years ago. And stuff, if you're surveying. I recommend if you are surveying, just ask for the full grant amount, which right now is 15. That's the max you can request. And then it requires an equal local match, so it'd be like 15,000 for match for like a $30,000 project. But it's okay if you guys come under budget for that, and if it's way less, I would rather you ask for the full amount, so you're covered in case anything unexpected pops up, than be under budget or something. So ask for the full amount. We don't care. It's not our money, it's federal money.
Yeah.
Right?
And I'm the city man.
I'll double check on what our city match is. Yeah, I think it's 10,000.
Okay, yeah, then
So,
do 10,000.
so we can apply for 10 or 20,000.
Yeah.
So
That is totally fine.
I'll confirm that with y'all. Or next week.
Yeah. And if you do put out RFPs, like we can look at them before you send them out. I'm happy to give suggestions. So they can.
Good point. As far as, I think I'm happy to facilitate maybe, I noticed it's a PDF. Is there,
It's a fillable PDF. I can send you the word. If I send you the word.
I can probably take over doing the grant for next time, and then we next time have a share. I'll turn it over to whoever's on.
And I'm happy to look at it before you officially submit. And like, is this okay? I'm happy to. Okay. So you have my emails.
how do you all feel maybe about, you,
And Olivia.
Olivia? Still giving out things down. We're
I
getting,
nominate Olivia.
so, I guess, yeah, we have a, let's say, any motion.
Make a motion.
Olivia will work out the minutes. Okay, second, give me a second.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all in favor.
I couldn't hear.
Okay, so we had a motion that Olivia is going to temporarily assume chair responsibilities to fill out the grant application. And we had a second, so okay, so I would say I'm happy to help in any way I can. I would say if it's PDF, if I could even convert it to a Google, we run a Google too, but
I can send you, just send you the word.
I can fill out the version.
If you want the word. it's okay.
okay, if you want to fill that out and maybe circulate it electronically.
Yeah, I will
we can
once
all
I-
review it. And we have a chance to review it before the next meeting.
And then
We could submit it
Yeah,
that day, right?
yeah.
I just need to know the boundaries that we want to do. I know 1600 is part of that boundary, so kind of what area do we want to look at?
Well, I was gonna ask, the survey that was done in 2014. Do we have access to that information? So we
We can-
can do the survey. And,
We can explain.
Yeah, I could explore and send you a spreadsheet.
Yeah, I'm not gonna
Take a
look
look
at
at
there.
Yeah, how about we wait for you to send that to us? I can distribute it, or you can distribute it to all of you. And then we can kind of,
And you
I
said
think
that
that's a great
like,
idea.
They'll say it was just 50. I think we should probably do something.
I agree. Because then you can almost then compare and contrast
Yeah.
the list of homes that from both lists.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Then it's hard to understand.
I know you're off tomorrow, right?
I can have meetings, so I can do this. tomorrow.
Okay. Sorry, we're just emailing reminders to ourselves. Don't forget,
I understand.
we're not ignoring you guys. Okay, but yeah, I honestly would not worry too much about that. It's easier than anything you've ever done. Okay. Any questions?
If Alena can do it.
A 5-year-old child can fill it out.
Yes.
Anyway, any other questions about? Okay, I mean, you can email me all my email. And stuff, but yeah, we just appreciate you having us out here, and I dragged Corey because he's the survey.
I'm glad you did. 'Cause I specifically wanted to ask Corey about that cat. Because Kenna, you know, is very interested in trying to work.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and it looked like Looks like they're getting started with some ground testing of the park study. That's gonna be the one.
Yeah. Ground testing and then,
Area of monitoring.
yeah, we've got the site plan coming through for that, correct?
It should be, we already have the building permit, but they have to have site plan approval first, so they're motivated to get site plan in.
Great, I think that covers item number 4. I know we scheduled it 5 to 6, and I didn't anticipate. But Lon, how long do you,
Well, this
anticipate
is
your
20 minutes,
20
if
minutes?
you want to watch it. It's a series of different areas of forum. Maybe a little bit longer.
Okay, do any of the commission members need to leave urgently, or would you be interested in staying? Okay,
Yeah,
so,
they don't have to see if they don't.
no, I'm just saying,
I'd
Lon,
love to say, I just.
I'm trying to kind of just say, if we want, if that's all the business and the grant application, we've kind of outlined the next steps for that process. I think we can make a motion, formal motion to adjourn. And then those who would like to stay and take part in your presentation on, who can, and they are able to. Do you feel okay with that?
Sure.
Okay, that way we can formally close the meeting and then we can could even potentially stop recording and on and just present, correct?
Whatever they want to do.
If you stay, you might find it interesting.
I want to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a formal motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Tom, do
We want to stop recording.
would you like to stop recording, Lon, or
What's that?
would you like us to stop recording the formal meeting?
Yes.
Okay, that's the other part of it, because of what you shared before.
Yeah, this. Yeah, because.
That works out for you then.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And that way Cheryl can also get on the way. So.